I know that for you, you really speak to a lot of the themes of networking, building connections, and the power of relationship building. And then kind of speaking a little bit about your backstory. I know that you come from a background of business to business tech sales, which is really male dominated type of industry. So, really excited to kind of dive in, give our listeners a little bit of an insight of what you're doing, how this has helped you in your career, and what you're doing with the new community that you're building for women in sales. So let's kick things off. Let's dive into a little bit about like who you are and what got you into the field that you're in right now.
Amazing. Well, thank you both so much for having me. I'm honestly so excited. I don't typically wear makeup when I'm at home, so I know this is a podcast, but it's nice to dress up and have this together, or just be able to speak together. But yeah, super excited to be a part of this. For me, anything to do with like networking, connecting, building relationships, like specific to women, like I'm a huge advocate and definitely someone that will be able to chat throughout the conversation. But a little bit about me. So I'm Mary and I'm born and raised in Toronto. So I have not left. I've definitely traveled a bunch and that's a huge passion of mine, but have yet to leave, which the reason I state that is I've obviously have a community from like a very young age. I'm still very close with like friends that I met in elementary school, in high school. I grew up playing competitive hockey. Some of the girls that I played hockey with are like my best friends to date. Like one of them is literally the floor above me in the condo. And so for me, like a little bit more about me. So born and raised in Toronto, and I went to university at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. And honestly, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my career. Like in high school, I thought I would be a lawyer. I thought that I would be a teacher when I was younger. Just all of the roles that you're expected to go into at a young age. Like I feel like that's what you're taught in elementary school when your teacher goes, draw a picture of where you see yourself in the future. Like what does that 20, 30-year plan look like? And I remember just like drawing a chalkboard and like equations on it because I'm like, you're a teacher. I want to be a teacher. So it's just something that like you're like kind of ingrained into. I think it's a little bit of a societal norm. And it definitely was like 15 years ago. And so for me, going into university, had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to, get out of the house. I wanted to, live with friends, live with roommates, and, have more of that independent lifestyle. And advice that I got when I went to university was you should do a degree, like major in a degree that you're passionate about if you don't know what that next step is going to look like in your career. And that was super valuable to me because in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I could go down the political science route. That's probably going to be really great for my future. Like politics is super important and it's something that like I could probably get into. But ultimately, I realized that like I love the environment. I love geography. And so I decided to actually major in geography and planning and a minor in environmental science. Fast forward 10 years, I am in sales. I am not in anything to do with geography and planning and environmental science. But I say that because I was able to enjoy my university experience doing a degree that I just enjoyed the courses on. And so after I graduated, I always knew that I wanted to take a year off. I always knew that I wanted to travel, experience a little bit more of the world before actually starting my career. And so I ended up actually backpacking in New Zealand, Australia, and Southeast Asia. And fun fact, as a Canadian, we are part of the Commonwealth. So it's very easy to get a working holiday visa. So I actually got my visa in Australia and I worked at a cute little coffee shop for 3 months in Melbourne. And yeah, it was there that I just realized I like interacting with people. Like, I think just a funny story I have from when I started out at the coffee shop is I've been a server in Toronto before, but in Australia, you're not just a server. There's front of house staff and there's back of house staff. So the front of house staff, you're not only the hostess, you're also the server and you're like the busser and you're doing everything versus just like going to the table. This is my table and I have like my section. You essentially do everything like front of house staff. I was hired and they asked me, they're like, Mary, like, do you know how to 3-plate carry? And it was a pretty fancy, like brunch spot that I was working at. And I go, yeah, of course I know how to 3-plate carry. Like I can carry 3 plates, like no problem. And I remember the first week, the chef, and I don't know if anybody watches MasterChef, but like chefs are they're not the most pleasant people, like, which well, I get it. I get it now. And so, and they have reason for that. Like, it's it's their art that they're curating and it's their environment. And if you're like bugging them, you're messing with their kind of like system. So 100% understand it now. But I say that because I remember the chef, like the bell dinged. I ran into the kitchen. I grabbed the 2 plates, and the chef goes, "Grab the third plate." And I looked at her and I was like, I can't grab the third plate. Like, I don't know how to carry it. And she starts yelling at me because I was supposed to be able to carry 3 plates to the table. So what did I do? I went home to the Airbnb that we were staying at. And I actually I was living with 4 girlfriends in Airbnb. They were all getting ready to go out for the night. I mean, we're 23 years old. We're living in Australia. We're having fun. But what did I decide to do? I decided to actually go on YouTube and like YouTube how to 3 plate carry. And I'm not kidding you when I say I spent an hour like taking all of the dishes out of the cupboards and learning how to like 3 plate carry. And the reason I say all of that is because one, work ethic is super, super important to me. And it's something that has allowed me to, one, be on this podcast today, but also allows me to have that credibility and be a person that like when I speak to someone, I'm not just speaking to someone because it's not like surface level. Like I want to get into depth with people. I really like caring is something that's like such a big characteristic of mine. And so that 3 plate carry story, I came back the next day, the chef dinged the bell. I came out, I took all 3 plates, and she looks at me and she was like, she didn't say anything, but she kind of like gave me a little head nod. And then a couple of weeks later, like every time that you're in the kitchen, every time you're in the kitchen, like if people are behind you, they say behind. And so I would always say, sorry, I'm behind you. I would say sorry. Every other like word out of my vocabulary was sorry. And the chef just like pulls me aside one time, same person that yelled at me my first week. And she goes, Mary, I get that you're Canadian, but you have to stop saying you're sorry. So like, you just need to get that out of your vocabulary. And from there, like, honestly, we bonded. I was like, you know what? Like, thank you. Like, I appreciate that. And then throughout the entire rest of my time at the kitchen or at the restaurant, she would like crack jokes with me. She yelled at everybody else, but her and I were just she saw like the hard work that I put into like what was being asked of me and just like the mutual respect and the mutual trust, which I believe is so, so important when it comes to building relationships and credibility. And so I say all that, like I say that because you're not always going to work with the best boss. You're not always going to work with like the nicest human being. Like I like to think that I'm a nice manager, but sometimes I can like, put my foot down and get frustrated, and it's the same kind of thing regardless of the environment. And so if you want to be able to build a brand for yourself, like it starts from the first impression, it starts from day one. And it's like I did say to them, I was like, I lied in the interview. I said I can 3 plate carry because I thought I could. My first shift, I very much said I cannot do this, and I came back the next day and I proved that I was able to do it. And so it's all about just like building that trust with someone and building that credibility. And then throughout the rest of the time, she would like always leave plates of food for me. She's like, Mary, I know it's your lunch break. Like, you don't need to pay for anything. Like just grab some food and kind of like go take your break. And so that's like a little bit about like what kind of like kickstarted my realization that, okay, I'm not a university student anymore. I'm somebody that's in the workplace. I'm like trying to kick off my career and like figure out what my next step is. And I realized I really like talking to people. I like being in a collaborative and like team environment. And I love just like the interactive component, but also being challenged in my day to day. And so came back from Australia, had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I have these characteristics. I'm like, I really like talking. I have great communication skills, but like, what job is that? Like, I don't want to go back to academia. I don't want to go back to school. So long and short of it is I decided to take a step into tech sales. And 6.5 years later, and I'm still in tech sales. And I've jumped around a little bit, but my first company that I started at, I was there for 3 years. Half of it was during the pandemic. And one of my managers at my first company actually has now brought me to 2 other companies. So we worked so well together and we had such a good working relationship that she took a chance on me to be her manager. So she was my director. I reported directly to her at the previous company I was at. And then she moved to the current company I'm at. And I actually followed her as well. And so I say that because like people follow good managers, but also like I read a book one time. I forget which book it was. And it was saying that specific to sales, but like sales reps don't apply for jobs. They get recruited and they get hired that way. Like the top performers are never looking to leave their like place of employment unless of course there's like other things going on. And so if you want that top performer, you're reaching out to them. And so based off of my entire career, like every role that I've had has been through the connections I've built, the trust that I've like created with them. And it's something that like I now look at as a manager. It's like I keep in touch with my top performers, but also those that like I've seen start from like the bottom and just like seen like what they've been able to do, their drive and their ambition. And some of them I get to still call like my good friends today. Very long winded. I think that was 10 minutes to answer that question. And I do apologize. But when I talk about Australia, I get super, super excited. But all to say is like, I've started building relationships from a very young age. And then even just throughout my entire career, I credit my entire career to like who I am as a person and not just having surface level conversations, proving that like I'm a good employee and I'm a good friend, I'm a good listener. And I may not always like get the job right away, but if you tell me a task, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to do it. And for anybody that feels like making that pivot or making that jump to like a different career, like as a woman, especially, I think I read a stat. It was like 70% of women don't apply to jobs if they don't hit all like the characteristics in like a job posting. Like,
Yeah.
newsflash, like as a manager, I'm not looking at the job posting, right? Like, I'm not looking at like, obviously the rules and the requirements are important. You don't want somebody who is an engineer necessarily like applying for like an interior design role, right? Like maybe they want that, but probably not. Like you do need to obviously read the criteria there. But all I say is that like as a woman, we doubt ourselves. We go in overthinking everything. We think that we're not good enough and we don't raise our hand. We never want to raise our hand. There's like that element of fear, but I also think there's that element of just like, we're very natural caregivers and like we want to make sure that if this is the job that we're getting, we're doing exactly what's being asked of us. And so honestly, like the role could not work out for you and that's okay. But like, you just have to jump in. You have to jump in and you have to dive in. And that's like my biggest thing when it comes to like, if you want to make a pivot or if you want to like start your career, like don't look at a job and be thrown off. You know what? You might not get the job, but that's okay. Like start having the conversations, like build your confidence. And honestly, that's just going to make things, you're going to feel so much better afterwards. And when you do get hired, because you will get hired, you're going to be like, oh, wow, like, I didn't actually hit 5 of those 10 boxes, but I know how to do this job and I'm probably going to be the best person that does this job.
I love that. I think, yeah, and thank you so like you touched on a lot of really great points too, Mary. And you lived in Australia. That's amazing. I absolutely love that. But yeah, kind of going back to what you're saying. So a couple of things that I took from what you just shared. Number one, you are your own brand. So, we talk about brand building, we talk about personal brands, and I think it really comes down to is who you are as a person and how you show up. And like you said, what is that impression? What do people think and talk about when you're not in the room? When you're not there, what comes to mind when your name comes up? And I think that's so powerful because when we go into these networking, when we go given the opportunity to meet with certain individuals, like showing up with your brand and building that brand of your own. But it's not necessarily like having to think, oh, I've got to show up on social media and I've got to like create content, not like that type of brand, but really just like who you are as a person and how you communicate that and how you convey that to other people when you are interacting one-on-one with individuals. And then the other thing that you talked about was work ethic, right? So putting in the work, showing up, and being willing to learn and to expand yourself and to find the answers to things too. I think that when we have that mindset going into things and really developing a work ethic is so powerful. And as women too, I think that's something that really goes hand in hand with a lot of the things that we do in life, right? And whether you're building your career or you're building your business, but work ethic is everything, right? And sometimes we're going to show up in situations where we really don't know the answers. Like maybe we're like, hey, you know what? This is easy. Like I may not know it, but I'm going to put my hand up and say I do. But then you realize you're like, oh shit, I actually don't know the answer to this. I actually don't know how to do this. But then it's being willing to be able to put in that extra bit of work. Like you said, all of you guys are in Australia, you guys are young, you guys are, going out, partying, having fun, but you chose to stay back so that you could learn that skill, so that you could show up and make sure that you delivered on who you said you were and who you were showing up as, right? And that taught you a really valuable lesson. And I think that that type of lesson, when we think about work ethic, and I think a lot of the women that are listening in also have really strong work ethics, right? Like there's so many women that tune in who are juggling so many different things, so many different responsibilities on a day to day basis. So I think it's fair to say that we all got really good work ethic, but it just goes to show that, going back to the other thing that you're saying, so many women won't even apply for the job because they don't match all of the criteria or all of the qualifications. But I think if we flip that and we really harness on that work ethic that we have within ourselves and that drive to being able to go out and learn to do the thing, I think that that goes hand in hand in terms of being able to understand, okay, there may be some gaps here, there may be some things that I can work on, but I can, and I can do it, and not allowing those things to hold you back from being able to move forward toward a goal or to whatever it is that you want to step into. So I really love everything that you just shared, Mary. I'm really curious to dive in a little bit on, you know, talking about going into a field, B2B tech sales, not for the faint of heart. Like it's not for everybody. Sales for one is not for everybody, but then when you go into, the industry of tech, that can be, like I said earlier, male dominated type of industry. And so I'm sure you've had many challenges of your own navigating that career path. You've been in it for 6.5 years, you said now. So knowing of your own challenges and seeing other women also struggle with some challenges, what are some of those challenges that you have seen? And what advice would you give women to overcoming some of those general challenges that women are faced with when they are trying to climb the ladder, expand their career, or, even like stepping into business?
Yeah, great question. And it's something that I'm still figuring out today, but I definitely have stories. I definitely have advice and thoughts on it. The very first thing that comes to mind when you touch on kind of the challenges and like it being, more of a male dominated industry and just like based off of what I said previously, like we've talked about imposter syndrome and I have felt imposter syndrome probably in every aspect of my life except for the last, I want to say like last year. And I'll touch on that a little bit later. But um, when I started my very first job, I was like an SDR role, very entry level, 23 years old, just like kicking it off in the workplace. I remember being 3 months into the role and our team got put into a room and the team was 30% female and 70% male. And there was about like 9 of us, I think, on the team. And I loved my team. I loved just like have learned already so much from them. But we're in the room and my manager goes, "Okay, team, like there is a role we're hiring for the next like essentially step in what our career was." So I was an SDR and they were hiring for BDRs. And so they said, we're hiring 1 to 2 BDRs right now. There's an immediate need. We're like trying to backfill those 2 roles. We're gonna like take out the original like criteria of like you need to be in seat for like 6 to 8 months. And if you're interested in being a BDR, raise your hand. And every single person that raised their hand in the room was a male. The 3 females in the room didn't raise their hand. And honestly, like I didn't think anything of it at the time. I remember just in my head being like, I'm not ready. Like I've only been here for 3 months. I don't know what I don't know. Like I'm not going to go step into another role. Like I'm comfortable, but I still have so much to learn. And I came home that night and I was still living at home. And my mom is also in sales. And she's someone that like she's one of my role models. I looked up to her and she's taught me everything I know about just like networking, building a brand, and honestly just work ethic and all that fun stuff. And I remember just coming home that night and being like, Mom, you'll never guess, like they're like our company's growing, like there's exciting opportunities, like they're actually hiring for like a BDR role. And she goes, well, did you apply for it? Like what happened? And I go, no, 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 I'm not ready. Like I've only been at this company for 3 months. Like there's no way that I'm ready to take on that next step. And she was like, okay, like let me ask you a question, Mary. She goes, in the room, like who raised their hand? And I was like, yeah, there was about like Connor raised his hand, Dylan raised his hand, like et cetera. And she goes, okay. So I was like, did any females raise their hand? And I go, again, I'm 23 years old. And I was like, no, like no females raise their hand. And she goes, exactly. Because she's like, why didn't you raise your hand? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Why didn't I raise my hand? And she goes, well, do you think you're not ready? Like, why do you think that they're raising their hand? They start at the exact same time as you. They're performing at the same caliber as you, and you both want to grow your career. So why did they raise your hand and you didn't? And from there, I just realized, okay, wow. Like that was very much a wake up call for me because I'm like, it's so true. Like I sometimes think, and I don't have a background in science, so like don't quote me on any of this, but like as a man, I feel like they hear something and they're just like, yeah, that's a good fit. Like sign me up. Whereas like as a woman, we start overthinking everything. We're like, no, I've only been here for so many months. Like I can't do that. Like you kind of go into a little bit of a, I don't want to say spiral at all, but we just like start really thinking through every possible thing instead of just being present and in the moment and just like actually responding with like what is genuinely like our first like gut instinct or our first response. And so I say all of that because that's been a challenge for me like my entire career is always feeling nervous and always feeling scared to like raise my hand in a room. And then I don't raise my hand and what questions being asked, like what conversation is had, the one that I had in my head. And so like advice I have is like, maybe don't say everything that's on your mind. Like I think being professional and like filtering what you're saying is super important. And, some people can definitely like learn from that, I would say. But I would say like you have to stop being afraid. Like you have to stop being afraid. And even if you say something that like maybe wasn't the smartest thing in the room, like you've said it and you've put yourself into an uncomfortable situation, but that's how you grow. Like you only grow through discomfort. And so that fear is what holds us back. And it's held me back. It's held me back in a lot of roles. Every time someone's like, well, why haven't you applied for that job, Mary? And I'm like, I'm not ready for it. And now that I'm 6 years into my career, it's like, no, now I'm applying for like director and like VP level roles because, I am deserving. I've proven myself and I know that I'm capable of doing these jobs. And so the advice I have is like, there's always going to be that fear. You might not be asking the right question. You might not be like the right person for the role. But if you don't just like raise your hand, then you're never going to know. And so that's like the most like impactful thing that happened to me at a very young age. And I still look back at that and I tell people that story. We all started at the exact same time. And I'm like, this is crazy. And so now, as a manager, there's been a couple situations where I've been like, okay, we have headcount, or we're hiring for this role and we want to do an internal promotion. And I tell my team, I'm like, you might not think you're ready, but I want you to apply regardless because you applying is going to show that hiring manager that you want the job. It may not be the right time, but it shows that like this is something that you're working towards and like you have gaps, but like people want to hire someone who wants to grow and wants to be coachable, especially in sales. So I would say that's been a challenge for me is like trying to get over that imposter syndrome of like, am I the right fit? Is it the right time? Fun fact, it's never the right time. It is literally never the right time. So you just have to do it. And if the pandemic's taught me anything, it's that like time is so precious. And I still like tell people, I'm like I'm 29, I'm turning 30 in January. And I'm like, but I'm not actually turning 30. Like I'm turning 28 because like 2 years of my life is just like, I don't even remember it. Like I was just like living at home and just like going on 2 hour walks a day by myself. So like that's advice I have is like raise your hand and also like the people around you, like use that to your advantage. Like have those conversations always. Don't just like wait to answer a question in a room that you know the question is going to be asked. Like prep for those things ahead of time. Like for this podcast, like, as example, like I prepped for this. I prepped for things that I wanted to talk about. I didn't know I love having a conversation, having a natural conversation, but I think it's important to like, prep and like understand who's going to be in the room. What is the conversation that's going to be had? What are the roles that you're applying for? Like, can you reach out to the hiring manager before you actually apply for the role? Things like that. And so that's one challenge. And then I would say there's many other challenges when it comes to like being in a male dominated industry. There's still an old school mentality. I'm going to say it. I've worked with a lot of people that have that old school mentality. There's a boys club and there's always going to be a boys club. Like I talked to my mom. She's turning 65. She's been in sales her whole career and she is a badass. Like she has built her career and people like still come to her to like get advice, to network. Like they're like, I want my daughter and I want my son to learn from you. Like, can you please like coach them? And just like being able to speak to her and being like, it is kind of crazy that I remember saying, I'm like, I don't golf, mom. And like, I don't necessarily want to start golfing. Like all they talk about is golf. Like all they want to discuss and all they want to do is like have their, and again, I'm stereotyping a little bit, but this has actually happened to me where we're just sitting at a restaurant and it's like, they're all drinking wine. I don't drink and they're all talking about golf. And like, I can talk to anyone. I can always include myself in a conversation, but it's like, it would be nice to like have a little bit of variety, you know? So I think that a challenge that comes with like being in tech sales, specifically as a woman, is that there still is that boys club. And so I actually like have no problem with there being a boys club. I think it's really good to like have a community and have those people around you that you can relate to. You don't know what's happening like at home. And so for them, maybe like actually coming and talking about golf and having a glass of wine is like what they need. And it's like therapeutic for them. The caveat to that is like, as a woman, you can feel like super left out. And so I say all of that because I noticed that gap and I noticed that challenge. And so I did something about it. And I actually created or started to create a community specific to Toronto right now with now a good friend of mine. We started something called Offline Collective, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is offline events for like women specific to sales right now, because we noticed that there's a lot of events that happen, but they're not necessarily catered just to women and they're not necessarily catered just to sales. And so it is such a demanding and challenging industry and challenging role, but it is so rewarding and people go into it for very specific reasons. And so being able to actually talk to people around you that get it, like as a mom, you both are, I think you both mentioned at the beginning, you're both moms. Like it would be really nice to be able to speak to another mom and like discuss, like, oh yeah, I went on mat leave for a year. And the person that I started working with, like, they're now a year ahead of me technically and like in their career. Like it's harder to relate to those types of people. So being able to meet other women and also have those like male relationships, because it's super important to have that balance. And so we built this community for women specific to like all of these types of things. Like I want to talk about reality TV. I want to talk about The Bachelor. I want to talk about The Summer I Turned Pretty. And am I going to talk about it at a dinner where they're talking about golf? Absolutely. But like it's going to go over their heads. So like that idea of like fear, like still enter, like put yourself into the conversation, but also it's okay to build relationships that aren't just like that boys club. Build your girls club and like the two can work together hand in hand. We've partnered with other males in the industry for events. Like our biggest event so far was with three friends that I've met in this community. And they're both like super like credible, just reliable, like amazing people. And they brought all the men and we brought all the women, and it was the best event that we've had so far in Toronto. Like 250 people showed up, and just like the diversity of everyone, just like the different roles that were there. So I'm never like, yes, there's a challenge of being like in that old school and like boys club type of industry, and I honestly don't think that will ever change. But it's like, what can you do about it? Like, how can you level yourself up while also having your community and like working on yourself and getting to that next step?
I think you're right. I think it's not going to change that. I was talking to actually a man the other day who was talking about he wanted to do more of a page and a podcast relating to men and their vulnerability and like speaking their emotions and stuff. And I think he was like, it's a stigma. Like we need to overcome that. And the way that men interact with each other has always been different to the way we interact with each other because I feel like we're more open, we're more like deep conversations. And like you said, golf is the topic that comes up a lot or whatever sport that is. Like in my house, I have 4 boys. I have 3 boys and my husband. I call it 4 kids. And they're all talking about sports all day long. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? Just I also feel left out. So I kind of get that too in a family dynamic as well, apart from I can't even imagine what it would be like in the corporate, right? So I think what you said was like having you're never going to change that, but having your circle, your people is so important for balance, right? And also showing up with the men and saying, this is, we can still work together. We can still, understand each other, but in our own different languages. And I think that's really important. So that's really good. So offline collective, when did that idea come up for you? And how did that come about for you? And when?
Yeah, it's a good question. Also, I'm curious, Sherry, do you have any pets? Do you have any
No.
so maybe a little female dog running around or something like that
I
to
can't
have
I
that
can't take
feminine
care of
energy?
a pet.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
You
I
have each
thought
other.
they want one, but I'm like, "No, when you move out, you can have one."
Exactly. That's a good role
Yes.
to place.
Yes.
But yeah, offline collective. So it honestly, okay. So it started about at the beginning of the new year, so January 2025. It honestly stemmed from like when I first started my career. My again, 23 years old, don't know what I don't know. My mom was like, Mary, like I want to connect you with some mentors. Like I think it'd be super valuable for you to have mentors in like different spaces and like different walks of life so you can like ask them these questions and as a mom, you can obviously be biased, right? So she's like, you always can come to me, but I want you to have like different perspectives and I want people to like challenge you. I remember saying to her, and I'm just like, no, I don't need a mentor. Everyone that I have is like at my office. Like, I love my manager. I love my director. I love my VP. Like, I love the people I work with. Like, I don't need that. And it took me a full year to realize how wrong I was. Like, yes, I had my internal role models and I had my internal mentors and they really helped me and they really guided me. But, like, having, like, an external perspective, having someone that, like, doesn't understand what your actual, like, workplace is like and can give you guidance and direction, but has also, like, gone through those experiences and is in a different walk of your life is so valuable for your career. So that's another piece of advice is, like, reach out to people. Like, mentorship is so important. It doesn't need to be like, you could reach out to like your best friend's sister or like your best friend's mom. Like you can start small and like start with someone you're comfortable with. And then you can go out and be like, I actually want to connect with someone on LinkedIn. I really like their post and see if they respond to me. And so it started from then where I realized like a year in where I was like really struggling with like, how do I get promoted? And I needed guidance from just like external like mentors. I started, I took my mom up on the offer and she connected me with 3 people. And I'm still like to date, like very close with like one of my mentors. Her name's Rochelle. She actually spoke at one of our panels back in May. And like I literally texted her yesterday being like, I need help. And she's also, but also we went shopping together like 2 weeks ago. So now she's like a friend. But I say that because mentorship has always been super like valuable to my career. And it didn't start off that way because I was like scared to get out of my comfort zone in all honesty and like have those conversations. And so mentorship's super important to me and having a network and like building a brand outside of just like what your company is. Like some people are at companies for like 20, 30 years and those are the only people that they know. There's nothing wrong with that. But like it is important to like widen your audience and like broaden like again, I think it's just like perspective is everything. And so for the last 5 years, I've made a point of like every month, like reaching out to someone and having a coffee chat with them. Some coffee chats, it's one coffee chat and it's done. Some coffee chats, like I'm actually like going for dinner with them like later in the month. Like they turn into genuine friendships and genuine relationships. And so there's always been a part of me that has known that like I'm really good at connecting people and like building relationships. One, I feel like I'm just like a very approachable person. And two, people have done it for me. I want to do it for them. And I really value like, not surface level conversations. I value like understanding a bit more about that person. Like,
Mhm.
how can we dive a little bit deeper? Like, is there something that we can relate on to a different degree? Not always, but like for me, I always try to point of like, if I'm pitching you something as a sales rep, I don't want to talk about your like or like our product for the first 10 minutes. Like I want to have a conversation with you and actually have like a human connection. And so for the last like I would say last year and a half, I've been thinking about like how can I like help other people? How can I like share advice and like share how important mentorship is, how important networking is, and also like how can I like get like people to come together? Like I find that I'm the most like excited and like at my happiest when I'm literally like networking with people, but just like talking to people, like learning about their lives and like different walks of life and stuff like that. And so it was a year ago where I was like, I really want to host an event. I really want to host an event in Toronto that's specific to women and just like get a group together. And I'm really good at having ideas, but not always executing them. Like my notes pad is stupid with the amount of things that I want to do. And I'm so type A. So it's like to do list, to do list, to do list. But then it's like, wait, where am I actually going to do this? Like, when am I going to do this? And so it's like finding that person that balances me to like actually put the idea to a reality. And that was Elda. So I have been thinking about it for a really long time of like building a community in Toronto, especially just like being born and raised here. And which I learned is apparently like not common. Like people have asked me, they're like, so when did you move to Toronto? I'm like, oh no, I never left. And they're like, you're from Toronto. So it's like very funny to think that, but also hearing that, I'm like, okay, Toronto has now become that city that people want to be like moved to. And when you move to a new city, it's hard to meet new people. So taking all of that, I was like, okay, this is an idea. I would love to execute it. So that was last like September where I was like, I really want to like um, create an event in Toronto. And then I did nothing with it. And then at the end of December, I was like at a really challenging point in my career. I was like feeling really stuck. I didn't have like actual guidance in my role as a manager. So I started reaching out to like specifically like other managers that had a similar title to me. And I reached out to Elda and I was like, I'd love to grab coffee with you. I'd love to pick your brain. It seems like you're doing like an amazing thing with your team. Like, can we grab coffee? And I want to just like learn from you. We sat down for coffee. We had a half an hour blocked on the calendar. It was 8:30 to 9 a.m. before our work days. I'd left that coffee shop at 10:30. I missed like 2 meetings, weren't really that important, but like we just and we did not talk about work. We just talked about like life and we talked about experiences. We talked about like Toronto. We talked about just like everything except for like guidance on like how should I run a one-on-one with my rep. And it was there where I was like told her I was like I'm really interested in like creating a community and like running an event. And she was like, well, let's do it. And she created a WhatsApp that night. And 6 weeks later, we had our first event. And that first event, we had no idea what it was going to look like. We're like, let's see if there's an appetite. And we planned it and we actually sold out. So it was a capacity of 75 people. We sold out in the first week and a half and we had a ticket price and we were scared to do a ticket price, but like none of us had like $3,000 to like throw at this event as much as like we would have wanted to. And so we put a ticket price on it because we're like, this will also like see if there's like even more of an appetite. And so we had our first event, we sold out, and it was just like the most like powerful night for me of just seeing everyone together and how many like women are in similar like situations and like experience similar challenges, but also like not just challenges, also like positive experiences and like how much fun they're having in their career and like just like relating to them. And so we hosted our second event 2 months later and we decided to do a panel. And so we did the panel on corporate wellness and like balancing burnout. And again, that event sold out in, I think like in a month because we upped the capacity. And at that event, people were like, how can we follow you guys? Like, what, like, who are you? Like, what's your name? Like, is it just Mary and Elda? And then the catering company was like, okay, so how do we invoice you? And so it was in that moment, we're like, we should probably like launch a name or launch a brand. But we never knew where it was going to go. And we never wanted to like, we were just like, let's just do it, see if there's an appetite and then go from there. And so fast forward, we launched Offline Collective at the end of June and we have merch, we have hats, we have totes, but like I
Ooh.
personally have never hosted an event before. And I realized, wow, I'm good at this. Like I'm so freaking type A that like planning stuff is my love language. Like it's been so much fun. And like having Elda to like balance it out, like we're such good workers. We're such good like partners
Partners.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're such good partners. I've learned so much from her. And now she's like one of my very good friends. And so it all started for like an idea that I had a really long time ago, just based off of like being born in Toronto, knowing how valuable like having a network is and wanting to be able to have other people experience that. And yeah, we launched our Slack community earlier this week. And so I was like, okay, well, like, let's try to do an event in Toronto. We're still figuring out what that next thing is going to look like. It's like Toronto, Canada, having that presence, like building those relationships. And it's the biggest tech hub in Canada. And like as a Canadian citizen, like our country is important to us. And so like we want to be able to keep building like people's careers like in the city versus like, you know, if they want to move elsewhere. So yeah, that's how Offline Collective was created. It was through like a LinkedIn DM, an idea, and then yeah, the rest is kind of like history. And now we have goals and now we have like ideas of like what's next. And I have too many ideas again. And Elda's like, Mary, like slow it down. And I'm like,
Sounds like our conversations.
yeah.
Yeah, Mary, like, I think the biggest thing that you just touched on with all of that is you really just highlighted the power in collaboration, like, the power of coming together with other incredible people and being able to share the vision and then growing that vision with other people. So, like, when you were talking about, the idea came to you, about just, like, more than a year ago, but you said you kind of just like sat on the idea. But then once you got together with Elda, and I also love how the universe brings people together. Like that was so accidental. It wasn't that you were sitting down with Elda to being like, hey, let's see how we can make this come together. You were completely going into that coffee chat for a complete different reason. So I really love that, and the fact that you guys came together. I still remember your first event. So that is actually how I got to meet you. Was I attended your first event because I work with another organization. And so, like, my role is partnership sales. So I remember going to that event and it just being packed, and the energy was so incredible. The energy was so nice. And I remember having some really great, genuine, authentic conversations. Like, it was like you talked about not going beneath the surface, like having those more deeper conversations. And I'm the exact same way, and I think that with a lot of networking events you kind of get that surface level type of feel, and I think that's probably why a lot of women are intimidated or just you kind of get the ick of going to networking events. But I remember that event was so different from other events I attended, and I absolutely loved it. And I remember I got to meet you in person. And so when you talk about how you are and how you go out and you relationship build and just how you like to connect with people. I got that firsthand because I remember you coming up to me and introducing yourself, and then we had a little conversation. And then I got to meet your partner, Elda, as well, which she's so lovely, very, very, very similar type of energy too. But yeah, it's just really incredible to see how when you come together and you can collaborate with other women or other people, right? The magic that can unfold. And Sherry, her and it was back last, I think it was the summer of 2024, summer 2024. And I came to her and I said, Sherry, I've been thinking I want to start building again because I ran events back in New Brunswick for women and everything. So but when I moved to Toronto, everything just paused. And I said to her, I said, I think I'm ready to build something here now. Like I'm ready. And so we got talking. And she's like, you know what? I've been thinking I want to build something too. And anyway, so as we got talking more about our visions, we were just like, why don't we build something together? And then we started working on the idea of doing Soul Sisters Rise and having Soul Sister retreats. And then January of 2025, that's when we launched the Hey Soul Sister podcast. And then we did our first retreat in May. And now we're actually doing in person events now for women. So she just launched hers in New Brunswick last month. Actually, it was this month. We're still in September.
September, yeah. So I just did my first one. I was similar to you. I was just like, you know what? I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm just going to put it on anyway. And I think I live in a place where it's like, it's quiet. I live in a very quiet neighborhood, and everybody's very community based, but nobody really goes out and has these kind of conversations. They're always working. They're always taking their kids to sports. There are always things on the to-do list, going grocery shopping, doing the wife thing and the mother thing. And I was like, you know what? I don't want it to be a networking event because we had that here and they just stopped doing it. But I was like, there's nothing here for a woman who just wants to, set down the roles and rules and all the to-do lists. The woman that just wants to meet new people and connect one-on-one and have
Mhm.
some drinks and eat some food and just chill, right? So I was like, you know what? My brother-in-law has a restaurant. I'm going to ask him if he would let me host it here. Beautiful space. Give me the food, give me the drinks. I'm just going to include it in the ticket price. Everybody comes, right? And it was such a big hit. And as soon as that happened, I had this energy surge. I was like, I need to have another one.
Yeah.
It's addictive.
It's contagious. Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah,
It's
no,
a drug.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
like having fun is crazy and being able to like
exactly.
do that with other people. Yeah. I
Yeah,
love
so we
that.
need more of that, and I know you guys live in a bigger city, but where I'm at, it's like there's not a lot of it. And so I just want to break the rule. I want to start the trend here and I want to be the rebel, right? And that's also like you said, you were programmed or taught to be this or that. but you just went along your own path by moving and doing the things. Similar to you, that's kind of how my journey is. So I feel like um, there's something to be said for just not overthinking things and just feeling it and just doing it. Don't sit down with the to-do lists and plan out what does it look like. If no one shows up, no one shows up. But guess what? I tried. And at the end of the day, it's you got to play out the whole story and say, what if this does happen? What if it doesn't work out? That's okay. Like you have to be okay with that, but putting all your energy into that vision of like, how do I want to feel in this? Why? What is my intention? What is my why in doing this? And so we're excited to start building that for women who we need more of it, around like the world, basically, not just Canada. I think we need it
Yeah.
around the world. We need women to, you know, basically say it's okay for me to, you know, put the stuff down. It's okay for me to put on my heels. It's okay for me to put on my sweatpants and come out and talk and just get real. And yeah, we just need more of that,
And
right?
I also just think, like, I know we're almost at time as well. I also just think, like, AI, like, it's a term that's used all the
Yeah.
time, everywhere. Like, I used ChatGPT this morning, and, like, to what you just said, Sherry, of just, like, yes, you're in a smaller town, like, you're, like, you're not in a big city, and I think it's just as powerful and just as impactful in, like, a smaller community as it is in, like, a larger, like, city as well. But, like, human connection, that can't be replaced, and that won't be replaced. So it's like, let's get ahead of it because AI is going to be so powerful for all of our lives. It already has been, and it'll continue to be that way. AI could very well replace my job. I know that. But what I also know is like how important it is to have like a conversation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Human connection in real life, virtual, whatever that looks like, sitting down, having a nice meal, having drinks, like, so sorry, like that's never going to be replaced. So being able to, so I think it's awesome that you guys have those retreats and you're building these events. Like, if you ever want to partner together, let's chat. But
Yeah.
but in all honesty, like it's so like, I think if anything, like communities are going to become like that next thing.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to be a part of it.
Yeah,
Amen.
us too. Mary, thank you so, so much for joining us and being on the podcast today. I think you've had so many amazing things that I feel like we could do a part two and go in deeper into like the networking and relationship building aspects too. But yeah, just thank you so much for being here today and sharing all that you've shared with us. I know our listeners will be able to take away a lot from today's conversation. And in terms of the offline collective, so any women who are in sales or maybe you're looking to transition into sales, where can they find you? Do you have a next event that's coming up that's on the horizon?
Yes, great question. We do have a next event. It's going to be at the end of October. It's going to be a bit more intimate, and we're going to make this one more of an activity. Just so, Sherry, what you said about it not just being a networking event, we're actually going to do a paint night.
Oh.
So details to come later next week. And then in terms of where you can find us, like right now, it's our LinkedIn. So Offline Collective on LinkedIn. And then as well as like myself and Elda, you can follow the both of us as like professionals, like in the working place. Like everyone does have a LinkedIn. So that's where we're starting. And then probably like later on down the line, like Instagram and TikTok and all that fun stuff. But for right now, Offline Collective on LinkedIn. And then we also have a Slack community. If you're interested, we have a form that you can fill out on our LinkedIn page as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mary. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
leave the links in the show notes below, guys. So then that way there you can follow them on LinkedIn and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.